Discretion is advised.
Like most people, I don't remember many details about my early years. I don't remember how I learned to tie my shoes or when I first learned that blue and red paint mixed together makes purple. I don't remember a lot of things about my childhood. But there is one thing I vividly remember: the night of my 7th birthday. What's more, I've thought about it every night for the past 31 years. All the kids in my class had come over for my birthday party that day, and by bedtime, I was really wiped out. Sleep came quickly, and I slept soundly until around 2 a.m. when I awoke suddenly. At first, I thought that a bad dream might have woken me up, but that wasn't it. Something just wasn't right. It felt like someone was in the room with me, and that they were standing there in the dark just staring at me. My room was dim, but it wasn't totally dark. I looked to see if my mom or dad had come in for some reason, but the only things I could see were the shadows of discarded clothes on the floor and the pile of presents that sat on my chair. The room was deadly quiet, but the feeling that something was watching me grew by the second, and mixed with it was another feeling. Whatever was watching me was bad. Very, very bad. My eyes scanned the room. The farthest corners were lost in murky shadows, but the area near my window was fairly light. Next to the window was my dresser, and next to it stood something tall and dark that at first puzzled me, then terrified me. It was a deep, black shadow, blacker than the blackest black, and it was in the shape of a man. This shadow man stood in front of my dresser, and even though I couldn't see his eyes, I could feel him continuing to stare at me. I'm telling you, this wasn't just a child's imagination. This was real. My dresser had a mirror attached to it, and the shadow figure blocked both the dresser and the mirror. It was very human-looking. It stood about 6 feet tall, and apart from the fact that it was completely black, there was nothing unusual about its appearance. It had a normal-sized head, arms, and legs. The thing moved its arms ever so slightly, as if it was becoming impatient from trying to stand still. That's when I noticed its hands and the thing it was holding. A shadow knife, about the size of a large kitchen knife. He was holding the knife in his right hand and holding it down on his right side so that it was close to his thigh, and the tip was pointed down toward the floor. The hand that held the knife moved up and down, ever so slightly. This pitch-black figure continued to stare at me, and it seemed as if it was trying to gauge the best time to spring at me. That was one thing I wasn't going to let it do, so I called out as loud as I could to my mother. "Mom! Mom, come in here, quick!" I shouted. The hall light came on, and my mother rushed into the room to see what was the matter. When she came into my room, I became even more frightened because she didn't see this figure standing there. She walked right past it as if it wasn't there at all. The dark figure never moved, even when she walked right in front of it, which I found terribly scary at the time. Now that I'm older, it makes me wonder why this thing stayed so still. Seeing how frightened I was, my mom stayed in the room with me, and all the while she was with me, I could see this black figure standing there. I never told her what I was seeing because I was so scared I couldn't even get words out of my mouth, and I thought that if I did tell her, it might attack us. Despite how young I was, I could tell that it was very negative. Although I didn't understand it at the time, the way that it made me feel only caused me to be more afraid of it. As best I can remember, it took about an hour and a half for the shadow figure to leave. It either faded out into the air or it ran out of the room. I can't recall which. Years later, I came across an article that talked about the paranormal phenomenon known as shadow people. I was amazed to read that many people have seen these things and that they described them as looking exactly the way the man in my room looked. I didn't read about anyone seeing these creatures holding knives, but they've seen them moving around rooms, and they sometimes leave by walking right into walls. I know now that what I saw the night of my 7th birthday was a shadow person, and to this day, it's something I wish I could forget.
So this happened when I was about 5 or 6. I've always had really bad anxiety, And I heard in some cultures that people with bad anxiety usually see spirits and stuff like that a lot more. But when I was around that age, my anxiety was really bad. This is what happened. So I went to go out on the trampoline in my backyard, and I loved the trampoline. And as soon as I opened my back door and looked onto the trampoline, I noticed 3 men all standing next to each other with hats on, except they were pitch black. I yelled at them to get off, and my parents heard me and came downstairs. My mom even tells me to this day how much I was freaked out about it, and she remembers it vividly. I told them that there were people on the trampoline, but when I looked back, they were gone. And I didn't go back on the trampoline for almost 2 years, and when I did, I went to do a flip and nearly broke my neck. Now, here's the really weird part. So my parents, before they had me, used to live in my dad's mum's house, so my grandma's house. My grandma said that every now and then she would wake up with the black figure just standing over her, staring at her. But no one else ever saw it, but when my parents moved in, she stopped seeing them. Then one night, my mom woke up and said she saw someone standing over my dad, like 2 inches from his face, and she just yelled and he was gone. So once they moved here in my current house and had me, they may have followed him. I don't know. I haven't seen them in a while. Mind you, I'm 16 now. Just wanted to hear some opinions on this. I am brand new to this subreddit, but I really enjoy what I'm reading, as I have had similar experiences. Thanks.
This is really strange. I had never really heard about shadow people until a few years ago, but when I did, it sent a shiver down my spine because I've been scared of them my whole life, but without a name for them. This is because, literally, my first memory is of being visited by shadow people in my crib. I was roughly 2 or 3 years old at the time, putting this in either 1985 or 86. My memories of waking up in my crib and becoming aware of a presence nearby. I saw a dark shadow on the wall on one side of my crib, but the shadow had bright white eyes. It started coming toward me, and I got scared and went to the other end of my crib, where I ran into another such creature coming at me from the other direction. Neither creature had any real form I could make out. They were just black against the wall, even though the room was already dark save from streetlights shining in through the window. All I could really make out for certain was their bright, almost glowing white eyes. Both of these creatures crept along the wall toward me. I had, at this point, moved to the middle of my crib and didn't really have anywhere to go. At that point, my memory ends. I don't recall what happened when they finally reached me. I do know, however, that the experience traumatized me to the point where I tried to tell my parents about it. I don't remember that part, but they do. I told them, in my limited vocabulary, about these shadows trying to get me. And my mom distinctly remembers thinking that I was talking about the shadows from the window blinds. As she put it, they're just lines on the wall. They're not real. Funny thing is, even though I don't remember this explanation, it stuck with me because ever since then, I referred to them as lions, and I never knew why. I didn't remember the conversation, and the creatures didn't look like lions, but I just always referred to them as lions. That was the only time I ever saw these things, but I've had nightmares about them at various points throughout my life. It's just so weird to me that of all things, this was literally the first memory I can recall. And when I finally did read about shadow people, like I said, it literally sent a chill down my spine. Honestly, I had to close my web browser and leave the room the first time I read about them because of how similar they were to the lions I had seen as a toddler. Now, I fully admit, as my first memory, details are naturally sketchy, and it's entirely possible it was all a dream and that I simply don't recall it as a dream. It just weirds me out how much this experience I had sounds like stories about shadow people I've read, even though I had literally never even heard about shadow people until after I had graduated college